Is open Pixlr E. You don't need to go to create new, just open Pixlr E and then lower your lid forward and make some observations. This was a piece of digital art created in Pixlr, or a piece of digital design, I guess. What are some things you notice about it? Elizabeth?
There's planets.
There are planets. Riley?
They overlap.
A couple overlap. Why do we think they overlap?
Because they're, as you can see, the Earth is interfering with one of the other planets, and you can't see some of it.
Okay, and why do we do that? What do you think? Carson, why do we do that when we create an image?
Because if you didn't, then there would be a line where the Earth should be, and it wouldn't look good. Because if you looked at an orange in real life and behind it was an orange, you can't see both of them at the same time. The one is in front, and that's the one you can see best.
And what do we call that? What strategy did we already learn that that's describing? Luca?
Space.
We are creating space. So on the back cabinet, remember our elements of art? We already learned about how to create space. In this case, it's a literal space, so that refers to distance in the picture, right? And one of the strategies is overlapping. What are some other ones, and do you notice them in the picture? Rylan? Size. So when we have things larger or smaller, it moves them forward and back in the picture. There's one more that may or may not apply to this image. What do you guys think? Roman, I saw your hand going up. What do you think?
Value?
So it has to do with value. What happens with value when we're dealing with space? Who remembers? Riley?
Usually, if colors are more towards the sun, they're brighter.
Okay.
If they're further away and covered by something, they're darker.
Okay. So in this image, I have different size objects. So if you look in the background, we have stars that appear very tiny. Some are a little bit bigger, and some are bigger than that, right? So we talked about size being a way to create the illusion of depth. We have overlapping, and there's a thing on the planet, right, called atmospheric perspective. You guys remember that? Things far away are blurry and lighter in value, and things up close are darker in value and more clear. When we're taking an image out in space, is there an atmosphere that's coming through our camera lens? What do you guys think? Is there an atmosphere out in space? Ellen, what do you think? No. Where is the atmosphere? Where is it right now? Carson?
Is it around the Earth?
It's around the planet Earth, right? So this one has an atmosphere, that's why it can support life. Do we see an atmosphere here? No, there's no life on that planet. Now we're gonna create our own planets. I heard you guys refer to the big blue planet as Earth. I don't want you to think of it as Earth, just a planet that could support life. Planets that can support life, we talked about has an atmosphere, and they have one more element that is required. Yes, sir?
Plants and water.
Well, some of you, I just want to make sure you have it, because it has all the things that are required for this project. Okay, so this is done in Pixlr. Now, it's important to know, you may not just go on Google, and I know you guys are capable, and copy and paste pictures of planets that exist. We are going to create our own, okay? So they may or may not look like mine. I'm going to show you how to create them, but you're going to create your own. Does that make sense? They can be totally fantasy. I don't want you to think about our planetary system or our solar system. You're just making your own planet somewhere out there. So, open your lids. You guys will be on Pixlr, and remember we're on Pixlr E, not Pixlr X, so go to Pixlr E. And then we're gonna click Create New, and then Create. You guys remember all that steps from the last project? Okay. Adam, do you want an extension cord so you can sit? Okay, so we used certain tools when we did the Invisible Man project. Do you guys remember any of the tools from the Invisible Man project? I know it's been a couple weeks. Roman, give me one. The clone tool was this guy. Did you guys use anything else? Riley?
We used layers.
We
Does that
cre-
count as a tool?
Sure. We created layers. How did you create your name? Yes, but Joshua, what do you think? Cool text, and we brought it in, right? So those are some of the skills you might use on this project also. So there are other tools we're going to explore today. So you may or may not know, but is there a tool that could fill this entire background with a color? What do you guys think? Actually, is there a tool that can fill it effectively or easier than another one? Luca, what do you think? Okay, there's a tool called Fill, and can you describe what the tool looks like? Okay, like an oil canister or a bucket. So I want you guys to click on that one. If you get an ad pop up, you can just exit out. If you get stuck at any point, raise your hand. Now, if we're creating a image of space, what kind of background or what color do you guys think we need? Shout it out if you know. Black, okay. So, on your Pixlr, right here on your color palette, you're gonna click that. Remember this value circle? It doesn't matter what color you're on. So the slider bar can be on any color, as long as your value circle is all the way in the bottom left corner. So do that and you will have black, and then click on your screen and you should be able to fill it. If you have problems, let me know. Roman, is that a thumbs up or I need help? Andrew, you good? Okay. Now, if I look at my stars, let's go back to the example. Some are smaller, some are bigger, right? What tool do you guys think we can use for that? Hover around for a sec. Take a minute and hover on your tools and see what would you use to create stars. Carson, I already saw your hand. Maybe you'll find another one. Roman, what do you think? Shapes, okay. Carson, what was your idea?
Well, I thought you could use the pen and stuff, but
The
you
pen?
can't draw. You can't draw on something that isn't an image.
Well, we're drawing on here, yeah?
Well, if you make it black, it turns black. But if you can't draw with the pen, then the pen doesn't have a use.
Well, could we use a different color instead of black?
Yeah.
Yeah. Riley?
Well, you can use draw,
Okay, and what does draw look like?
It's a paintbrush.
Okay, so if you guys hover right in the middle of the toolbar, you'll see a pen and a paintbrush. For some weird reason, the pen says pen, but then the paintbrush says draw. I don't really draw with a paintbrush, I paint with a paintbrush, but anyway, that's what the one we're gonna use. So right in the middle, make sure you're on the paintbrush. Click that one, it says draw if you hover on it. So thinking back to the Invisible Man project and the clone tool, remember when you clicked on the clone tool, up here we had different things we could choose, right? Do you guys remember that? And you could pick different sizes, and we used different brushes. Do you remember that, yes or no? Okay, good. Same thing with the brush. Up here you'll notice if you click on that, I want you guys to do that, you'll see this familiar toolbar to you that we used in Clone. Yes, sir?
It doesn't have that on mine. It says select an image layer and the layer is
Yeah, that's what I know.
Mine said.
So let's select an image in the layer or add a new empty layer. That didn't happen at all last week with anybody. So let's click layer. New layer. Now there you go. Oh, there you go. Okay. So if you have an issue, go to layer and new layer, and it should create a layer number 2, and it's fine because it's transparent. Does yours work?
It wasn't, but then I just clicked here.
Oh, okay. Okay, so if you look at all these brushes, these top 3 rows are what we used when we were cloning for our invisible person project, yeah? I want to show you some more. So it's not very intuitive, but if you hover right on the edge here, you get a bar, a slider bar. You can slide that down and you'll have more options. Do y'all see that? Sarah, does that work for you?
Yeah.
Okay, good. We're gonna start at this top row though. So let's start with some small stars. I'm gonna pick a number 5 on the top row. 5 refers to the size. And then click off onto your screen. Now on your paints, so we already have black selected. You can do 2 things. I already have a white created, so if I click on that little curved arrow, it flips my color palette to white. You can flip it to another color and create white, or you can turn your black into white. And remember, to create white, you just slide your value circle all the way to the top. Same thing, it doesn't matter what color you're on, it'll create white. Thumbs up when you've done that. Joshua, Luca, you okay? Okay. Okay. So let's observe our example again. One thing humans have a hard time doing is creating random patterns. We like consistent patterns. So when you look at images out in space, stars do not have consistent patterns. They're kind of random all over, like if you took a handful of glitter and you just threw it on a piece of paper. Some are close together, there's sometimes lots of space. So when we are going to create our background, we want to keep that in mind. One strategy I use, and you're welcome to do that as well, is I just start with groups of 3 to 5 stars and create kind of groupings around my background. So you guys do that. 3, 4, or 5. Put them kind of close together. You don't want to fill the whole screen. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 groups. Notice there's lots of black space. Now, out in the black emptiness, I'm just gonna put a few random single stars. You guys do that. Don't overdo it because you're going to add planets, and remember your planets will take up lots of space. Okay, let's move on to medium stars. Joshua, are you okay back there? Okay, for our medium stars, I'm going to the third row, and I'm gonna pick number 30. Now, since these are bigger, I don't need quite as many. You can float them out in the big black space. You can kind of tag them onto a group. Again, you're doing less than the little ones. Not quite as many. Okay, last one. I'm gonna stay on the same row on my brush tool. I'm gonna go to a 70, but I'm gonna change something. Up here at the top, there's this word opacity. Does anyone remember what that is? When we did the clone tool, we used it a lot. Adam, what about you?
It's like how much it shows up.
How much it shows up? Be a little more specific. Give me an example. Elizabeth?
Like the lights there, you can kind of see through them.
Okay, like the lights in our ceiling, if we look up, they're kind of clear, but not as clear as the window, right? They block some of the light. They're kind of foggy. Carson?
Opacity is how transparent something is.
That's a great definition. How transparent something is. So I'm gonna lower my opacity on the bigger stars. I'm gonna try about 40 to 45%. And when you put these on, you'll see they're a little bit more muted, they're a little bit more gray. That's part of our strategy of creating the illusion of depth. If everything's the same brightness, they all appear to our eye the same distance. If some are a little bit duller, it moves them back. You can also play around with putting these right on top of a little star or right kind of on the edge of one. When you look out in space, sometimes stars overlap. So we can do that also. I'm gonna do a gallery walk, check in on you. Let me know if you're stuck on anything. Your control panel. This tells the computer what layer you're gonna work on. More than the Invisible Man project, you're gonna have multiple layers built in here, and it can get a little bit confusing. All last couple weeks with students working on this, if a student had their hand up and they were frustrated because they were trying to do something over here and it wasn't working, usually the problem was over here. They were selected on a different layer than where they were trying to work. So when you create layers, which we're gonna do in a minute, you need to make sure the blue one is the one you wanna work on. We are done with our backgrounds for now. I'm gonna show you a couple things I want you to know because they're helpful. Number one, on the right side, there's this box with a check. You can click that at any time and it makes that layer invisible. It doesn't delete it, it just makes it invisible. And that's helpful when you're working on multiple layers. Sometimes you don't want to see everything and how they line up. Sometimes you just want to focus on the thing you're working on, like a planet. That's one thing. Number two, on the left here, there are 3 dots. If you click that, you can do a couple things. You could name your layer, like if you want to name it background, or planet number 1, or yellow planet. You can also lock it. And if you lock it, you'll see this little padlock appears. That's helpful too because that will keep you from accidentally working on that layer and changing things when you're done with it. So when I finish a layer and I'm happy with it, I personally lock it. I'll leave that up to you. Another thing you could do is you could trash it if you worked on it and it's kind of messy and you have an open lasso and you don't know what's going on and you're just stuck on it. You could just trash it and open a new layer. So I'm going to give you the option right now to go back to your background and lock it or name it. Do that now. Sarah, if you want, you can lock or name your background. I'm not going to, but you're welcome to. As soon as you're done with that, thumbs up so I know we can move on. Okay. Josh, good? Andrew? Okay. We're gonna start on a planet. So we're gonna start our first new layer. So go to layer, it's up here, kind of in the middle. Click new layer. And you'll notice on your space part, it didn't look like anything happened, right? But over here, in your control panel, you now have two. Since I'm going to work on my planet, I don't want to see my space right now. I'm gonna make it invisible with that checkbox. Got it? Okay, next step. Go to the top of your Google tabs. We're gonna open a new tab. And I want you guys to look up paint texture. You guys know how to spell paint. If you want to know how to spell texture, on the back cabinets, the elements of art, you will see right next to space is texture. Texture. We're gonna do the first one all together with the same example. Then you're gonna be able to make your own. Yeah. You have to make the space invisible. That's your new layer. That's just transparent. Okay. Luca, good? Roman, you okay? Okay. Everyone went to space or paint texture, yes? All right. On this mosaic of paint texture, you see this yellow kind of, I don't know, looks like a wall, a stucco wall that's got paint feeling. I want you to click on that one. Okay, looks like everyone got it. I'm gonna turn my light off real quick so you guys can see better up here. I want you guys to observe and see, do you see this texture anywhere in the example? Raise your hand if you see it. I'm gonna switch them back and forth one more time. This one, do you see this? Anywhere inside here. Sarah?
The small yellow one.
The small yellow planet. So that's important. When I am observing your planet, I want you to be able to show me the original source where you got it, so I can see how much work and what you did to create your planet. What's it called if we go into Google and we find a planet and we copy and paste it into our work? Luca? Plagiarism. It's the same thing in language arts. If you copy and paste words into your essay, right, that aren't yours. In art, we can take things as long as we alter them. So I want you to notice that's where that came from, but it's changed quite a bit. I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay. We're gonna use this one all together because I know how this image works. If you think back to your Invisible Man project when you brought your name over, some people did it two ways. Some people downloaded it and saved it and brought it in that way. Some people were able to copy and paste it, right? Copy and paste is faster, and this image will copy and paste. Not all of them do. Sometimes you have to download and save it, and there's a couple more steps, and I'll show you individually if you get an image that does that, how to do that. Okay, so I want you to two-finger tap. You're gonna copy the image. I'm gonna right-click it. Go to copy image. And as soon as you do copy image, go back to Pixlr. And you're gonna paste it. You can do Control V as in Victor, Control V. And you should get a little square of yellow inside here. If you did not, raise your hand, I'll come help you. Okay. If your paint doesn't have a blue box around it that shows that it's selected, up here click the cursor arrow and it'll do it for you. Then, like I saw Sarah doing, you can stretch this guy so it's bigger and you can see more of what you're doing. Is everyone able to do that step? Elizabeth, no?
So how can we use that? And
Orange, yes? Sarah, you good? Okay. Up top, you have a dashed little box, the very top right. Click that. This is where we're gonna cut out our planet, or this is the tool that allows us to cut out our planet. Now, up here you'll see there's two types. There's a rectangle and the circle, but it says ellipse, and ellipse is a symmetrical mathematical oval. It could be measured left and right, top and bottom. So for me, I can cheat because I have the pen, it's a bit easier. I'm gonna click and drag, and you'll notice up here, I get width and height, so it gives me measurements. If I'm doing a perfect circle, they should be exactly the same numbers. I don't care about that. Just make it visually look close to a circle and then let go. And you'll have a blinking lasso. You guys are gonna click and drag with your finger or click with one finger and drag with your finger to make a circle. When you let go, your lasso should be blinking. Let me know if you have trouble. Good. Are you okay? Okay. Okay. Eyes up here, voices off. Adam, can I see your eyes, please? Thank you. Okay, now that this is a lasso, it's kind of the same process as bringing that image in. Control C, copy, and then Control V is a paste. You don't even have to open a new layer, I forgot that. Pixlr does that for you. So, it doesn't look like I did anything, right? But if you look in your control panel, you should see a yellow rectangle, which is this layer, and a yellow circle, yes? Thumbs up, yes or no? Okay, if it's a no, I'll be around. If it's a yes, all you need to do is turn off the rectangle, meaning you make it invisible, and you should see your circle. Hmm? Oh. Hold on, let's go back. I'll make that bigger. Try again. Okay, Control C. Control V. Okay. What happened is when you did your first Control C, you were clicked on your background layer, so it cut it out of your space and not the paint. That's what I was talking about earlier. You have to make sure you're on the right layer or it gets tricky. Ryland didn't work? No, same thing as Carson. You cut it out of your background, not your paint layer. So if I go to your background, so you have hole in that. You're on the wrong thing, so we don't do this. So you need to do Control C and Control V on this layer. See that? So try again. So pull your circle and do it again. Good. So you just go to that layer and delete it. Okay. Stay on the circle and make that one invisible. You need to select that layer, you're not on that layer, is the problem. Okay.
I'm pretty sure he never saved it.
Nothing there, we don't want it. Nothing here, we don't want it. Background so you can see them together, and I want to answer a question that Elizabeth had. So Elizabeth said, I cut out a pretty big circle, but it ended up small on here. Once this is on a new layer, you can change it. So once your planet is here, you can click this cursor. You can move it around because he's on a new layer. You could shrink it, or Elizabeth, you can grow it. Okay? So once it's a separate element, you have all those options. Did everyone get a background and your first planet cut out? Thumbs up, yes? I don't want to leave anyone behind. Okay. That was step one. Next class, I'm going to show you how to shade it and then make it look super fancy like this one. And it's not hard, just two more tools. Sarah?
What would you like? We're gonna change this one to something else.
Yes, eventually, after I show you the steps, you guys can trash that planet and make all three new ones. If you want to keep that planet, you'll have one of them done, okay? Yes, Brian?
If you're having fun with this, can you make like more than just 3?
Yes. So the minimum requirement is 3. We're gonna do 5 or 6 or 7. All right, if you guys can pack up, that would be great.